Hanoka is your average high school kid who knows that he won't ever get a girlfriend in his life because he's not cool, rich, or smart. But one day, his life takes a complete 180 when he gets introduced to the power of magic and monsters. For once, not thanks to Truck-kun, but through the hottest girl in his school. Turns out knowing the principal can get you more than just an admission. Apparently, he gets to date her daughter, Ayaka, as well. Hanoka's only quirk is that he rides the same bus as Ayaka, and that his seat is next to her in the classroom. Despite sitting right next to her, they have never spoken to each other, and it looks like they live in completely different worlds, with everyone flocking around her like some hungry ducks while he is almost transparent. One day, he accidentally drops his eraser and Ayaka picks it up for him, and we all know what that means for Ayaka's fan club members. They pull him out of his class and push him on the ground and then start beating him like the cannon fodder face he has and tell him to never make the princess do anything for him again. After getting the floor wiped with his ass, he goes to the teacher's office to help them as he is on day duty, but then some girl walks up to him and takes the papers from his hand. You might think this is the start of some romance anime, but no, she's just a member of Ayaka's slaves, and she wants to keep Hanoka away from her because Ayaka is on day duty as well. Just like that, his school days usually end up being the side character in Ayaka's story. One day after classes, he walks down to take the trash out and wonders what his life is all about. Just then, he notices an obviously evil-looking bunny toy in the trash can and picks it out to see what it's all about. On the toy's belly, there is a note that reads, "Today's weather will be clean, but some school buildings may fall." He wonders what kind of fourth grader joke that is, but just then, a massive shadow starts appearing on the floor and he looks up to notice the clock tower from the school building falling over him. He wonders if he will get Isekai'd to some world with beautiful girls as a hero, and sadly notes how he never got to even hold hands with a girl in this life. The building crashes on top of him, and that's how Season 1 of Witchcraft Works ends. Or at least that's what he thinks, but then he opens his eyes in the arms of none other than Ayaka herself and looks at her wearing some witch cosplay uniform. He starts panicking like the sissy-ass bitch he is, but Ayaka tells him to stop moving or else he will fall down. He wonders what she is talking about and looks down to see that they are standing in mid-air over a broom. In the distance, a cat-eared girl looks at them and wonders if Ayaka is a workshop witch, and then snaps her fingers to order two big armored rabbit toy soldiers to attack them. Ayaka tosses Hanoka in the air and then jumps back to dodge their attack and then burns them down with a fire spell before landing on her feet and catching Hanoka like a princess and giving him a close-up shot of heaven. The rabbit toy soldiers get up and charge straight forward for them with their swords, but Ayaka shoots them with some fireballs and then engages them in close combat with her broom and spells. She tells Hanoka to stay close to her, but he decides to do exactly the opposite like the idiot he is and turns around to see a cat-eared girl waving at him from behind the building and telling him to come over here in safety. He thinks that she must be Ayaka's friend and he starts running towards her only to find himself surrounded by an army of rabbit toy soldiers who immediately grab him by his arms and make him get on his knees. One of the soldiers walks up to him with an axe, and they all prepare to turn him into nearly Headless Nick's successor for the next Harry Potter movie. He wonders if all of this is a dream, but then Ayaka jumps in by setting all the soldiers on fire and saves him like the real protagonist she should have been. Hanoka still thinks that this is all a dream and starts shooting his shots by saying that she looks beautiful even in his dreams and that there is no way she would bother giving him even a second of his time, much less save him like some Sailor Moon Harry Potter hybrid. She tells him that it's her mission and that he must be confused, but he has nothing to worry about because she will protect him. He asks why, and she says because he is her princess. Nanani? Hanoka is a girl, confirmed. Hanoka wonders about the same thing and starts questioning his gender, but then Ayaka reminds him that their anime is not set in 2023 and there are still only two genders right now. She then tells him to just let her protect him, but he notices some of her hair set on fire and wonders if he is the reason she was hurt. He asks her why she covered for her, and that it was his fault for being dumb and getting tricked even after she pained him to stay close to her. He says that it is all his fault that her hair got burned and that it is a gift from God, but then stops talking and realizes that in reality he's a pervert and is starting to simp after her as well. After all those years of getting bullied by her simps, he has now also joined the dark side without realizing. While he thinks about how disappointed he feels in himself, he notices one of the toy soldiers getting up to attack her from behind. He remembers what he saw Sasuke do on the Naruto Bridge arc and jumps in front of her and takes the hit himself. He thinks he would look cool like him and say that his body moved on its own but fall unconscious before he can even say his line. Ayaka walks up to him and gives him a soft hug, and I'm sure you all know why I said a soft hug instead of just a hug. Looking at him getting hurt, Ayaka becomes mad and says that she should have turned them all to ashes in the first place, and then stands up to use her ultimate spell, million clover and completely annihilates all the enemies with a massive burst of fire element. Later that afternoon, Hanoka opens his eyes in Ayaka's private room in the school, and she tells him that it was all not a dream and that she will explain everything some other day, but for now they should go home. With that, they walk back together, and Ayaka explains that for now the only thing he should know is that it is her duty to protect him because he is her master. He wonders what she means by that, but then simply walks beside her, and they don't talk after that for some time. A few days later, everything looks fine and back to normal, but this time, instead of being a background character, he starts earning the jealousy and hatred of others when Ayaka decides to sit beside him on the morning bus to school. After that, they both walk together to their class, and Hanoka feels like he will be killed if he stays beside her for a second longer. He pretends to have stomach issues and runs outside, but then gets caught by the bully Simp Squad. They grab him by his collar and tell him to know his place and decide to beat him up, but then Ayaka walks up to them and tells them to let him go. She makes a bow out of his tie and then tells everyone that she will burn anyone who tries to hurt him again. Later that afternoon, during lunchtime, she sits down with Hanoka and some girls from her fan club. She feeds him with her own hands and says that she made it herself. Hanoka feels happy being treated like this, but can't help feeling unwelcomed by the 20 other girls sitting around him. He thinks that he is just ruining all their fun and stands up and says that he will go away and eat alone before running away. Hearing this, Ayaka becomes mad and sets everyone's lunch on fire while looking down. On the other hand, Hanoka feels sad for being rude to her and walks around the courtyard where the building fell over him. He notes that everything is back to normal and nothing looks damaged at all. Just then, he turns around to see the cat-eared girl standing beside him. She tells him that the falling building thing was all an illusion and then says that she has finally confirmed that he is a powerless dumbass to come to her without noticing anything. She walks up to him while changing into her witch gear and introduces herself as Tampopo of the Tower Witches. She says that she is there to kidnap his dumb ass and then calls out her soldiers, but then Ayaka arrives in the middle and takes Hanoka with herself. Tampopo says that she was waiting for her to come and then orders her army of toy soldiers to attack them. This time it's more than a few normal toy soldiers, and they all run her through with spears and swords from all sides. After the clash, Hanoka opens his eyes while on the ground and notices Ayaka covering him with more holes in her than he can count. She asks him if he is fine, and he wonders how this girl is even alive. He feels sad for being so weak and says that he will believe in her, but for now he needs to call an ambulance. Ayaka says that if he wants to make it up to her, he should promise to not run away during their lunch tomorrow. He says yes, and then says that she is bleeding so much, but she tells him that she is made of fire and it's all fine. She then tells him to just close his eyes and stay put, and then uses her magic and sends all the soldiers back flying. She burns all the soldiers into ashes and then walks up to Tampopo while holding Hanoka in her arms like a princess. She tells her that she's going to roast her furry ass now and blasts her with a strong fire spell. But Tampopo calls her soldiers and manages to barely escape from the scene with her ass caught on fire. After that, she tells Hanoka to open his eyes, and to his surprise, everything is back to normal, all clean and clear without any damage. With that, they both walk back home and call it a day. The following morning, 5 new students transfer into their school, and surprise, surprise, it's none other than Tampopo and her fellow Tower Witches. A few days pass by, and Hanoka keeps asking Ayaka to tell him the truth about all this witchcraft stuff and why he's being targeted by Tampopo and the others. One morning, he decides to keep asking her until she tells him, but notes that she didn't ride the same bus as him that day. He gets off the school entrance and changes his shoes and then walks to his classroom, only to find Ayaka having some intense fun with the new students. He looks up at the class board to note that he is actually at the Torture Society Club, and instead of wondering why they even have such a club at school, he asks her how he came there, and sure, he went to his class. Ayaka tells him that she cast a spell on him that he would subconsciously walk here instead of their classrooms so she could meet up with him. After that, she turns back towards the Tide Girls and says that this is a witch hunt and that she decided to get rid of them because they can be a threat to him. He wonders if that's true and looks at them struggling for their lives. He tells her to at least take the gags out of their mouths so they can speak, and Ayaka does just that. She says that she wanted to finish them off early, but then one of them ran away from her, so she was using them as bait to lure her out. Hanoka walks up to Tampopo and asks her why they are targeting him, and she says that it's no surprise that Miss Goody Two Shoes didn't tell him anything, and that simply put, she is after his body and wants that white stuff inside him. Hearing this, Hanoka starts blushing red, wondering if he heard all right, but Ayaka tells him to stop taking everything his enemies tell him at face value. Tampopo asks them if they should be so easygoing because they are yet to capture their last member. And just then, some kind of black slimy liquid starts dripping from the ceiling and soon engulfs both of them. From inside the slimy liquid, May comes out and sets her friends free. After that, she kidnaps Hanoka and phases through the floor to the room beneath them, leaving her 4 friends to deal with Ayaka. She starts basking in her successful escape with her target, but forgets that she is just a minor villain and more of a comic relief rather than the antagonist of the plot. Soon, Ayaka blasts the floor away and looks down at her with the other 4 witches defeated on the ground. She comes down and starts walking towards Mai, but she tells her to hold her horses or else she will make her wolf pet bite Hanoka's neck off. Yeah, I'm not sure what they all have against his neck. Ayaka tells him to not worry as she will cook this woman up in a second and continues walking forward. Mai stands up with Hanoka as a hostage and then makes her pet bite into his neck to warn Ayaka. Instead of getting warned, Ayaka sets her on fire and kicks her away, letting Hanoka escape. Surprisingly, his neck is completely fine, and instead the wolf's bite wound is on Ayaka's neck. Watching this, Mai makes her escape and lets her friends retreat as well. Later that afternoon, Hanoka opens his eyes in Ayaka's schoolroom and notices that she is wearing a scarf around her neck in the middle of summer. She apologizes to him and says that she wanted him to live a normal, peaceful life, but if things continue like this, he will keep getting targeted by the Tower Witches. She then says that to get his normal life back, they must make a move themselves and defeat the mastermind behind all this, but the only problem is that she doesn't know who it can be. Hearing all this, he thinks about the whole situation and notes that it is his fault that she got hurt and is hiding her wound with the scarf. He asks her to tell him everything and to make him her apprentice as he doesn't want her to fight alone anymore. Meanwhile, somewhere inside a coffee and dessert shop, the school's headmistress and Ayaka's mother, Kazane, meets up with her old rival and villain, Chrome Noir, after a short 130 years. Chrome Noir tells her that she found out that Medusa's students picked a fight with her people and she might want to join in the fun. Later that weekend, Hanoka receives a call from Ayaka to meet her outside. He thinks that it looks like a date, but in reality, she is just telling him the truth about witches and everything as he asked. She says that they will go to the school, but on their way they will make a stop at a food shop. While walking to their destination, Ayaka tells him a story about witches and explains that in this world, there are 2 types of witches: the workshop witches and the tower witches. The workshop witches are the protectors of this world, and they create workshops in places where people gather and build cities. Their job is to make sure that magic is not used for evil in this world, and they open workshops in different sectors and live there, and that's why they are called workshop witches. On the other hand, tower witches are selfish people who don't abide by any law. They use their magic for selfish purposes and often cause harm to others. She then says that if you were to fall into their hands, the world would come to end and everyone would die. After that, they go inside the food shop and take a breather. After ordering their food, one of the waitresses walks up to them and starts talking to Ayaka in a high-pitched voice. Ayaka keeps glaring at her with anger but listens to everything she says and notes that Cronery is in town and more tower witches are coming here as well. Hanoka notices that the girl is actually their school's student council's vice president and that she is also a workshop witch like Ayaka. Once Ayaka finishes her drink, they walk out and go to a shopping mall and buy some clothes. While waiting for her to finish her shopping, Hanoka notices a cute girl helping a lost child and walks up to her. The girl looks at him and takes out her notes and confirms that he's the same guy in the pictures. She then kicks the lost child away like some NPC and jumps over Hanoka with a sword and reveals herself to be a tower witch. His friends walk up from behind as well and they attack Ayaka. Ayaka sets them on fire and jumps forward to save her princess boy. One of the tower witches uses American style gun no jutsu and starts shooting at them with a pistol. In response, Ayaka uses Batman-style bulletproof cape technique and deflects all the bullets. After that, she stands up and copies Ace's fire pistol attack and wipes the floor with her crispy burnt asses. With that, she walks up to them while carrying her princess boy in her arms and lets them escape like Agent 007. After finishing their business at the shopping mall, they continue walking to the school and Hanoka tells her sorry for getting her caught up in all this trouble. He asks her if it won't be better for them to just seal him away or lock him up, but she says that he shouldn't worry about those things and that she will protect him forever. After that, she tells him to work hard at his lessons because being her apprentice won't be easy. Hearing this, Hanoka becomes happy and resolves to grow stronger. Soon, they reach the school and Ayaka reveals that the school is in fact one of the workshops and then takes him to the headmistress' office and makes him meet her mother, Kazane. Kazane scolds Ayaka for breaking stuff at the mall and says what good is a workshop witch who destroys others' property, and then tells Hanoka that it is a custom at the workshop for witches to introduce their apprentices to their master on their first day, and that's why she told her to bring him here. The next day, Ayaka takes Hanoka out for some training, and on their way they are ambushed by Tampopo and her Teen Rocket. Kana asks if it's a good idea to attack her because she's practically invincible, and Tampopo says that they will go with a rapid stream formation, which basically means charging straight at her, all ooga booga no brains. Ayaka tells Hanoka to watch closely and then sends the brainless idiots flying just like their Pokemon counterparts into the sky. Obviously, Hanoka learns nothing from this encounter. After that, they go back to their school and Hanoka opens his locker only to be drowned by a tsunami of death threats and hate mail. One of them even threw in a dead voodoo doll of him. Ayaka notes that it must be the doing of her simps, and that he shouldn't worry as they won't harm him any longer. Despite that, he can clearly notice the hateful glares from everyone around him as he gets to sit next to her, get taught by her for exams, gets paired up with her during sports, and even gets to walk to and from school with a princess that they all admire. After school, Hanoka prepares to do some magic practice, but Ayaka walks back with him to the bus station and says that she knows how tired he is, so they will take a break today. They get inside the bus and ride to their home, but on their way, Ayaka notices a flying magical fish in front of her and looks at the bus destination that changes from the next bus stop to dead end. She immediately gets up and turns around and finds Cronoir sitting in the back seat. The whole bus is empty and even the driver is gone and the bus is running on her magic. She tells Hanoka to stay put and faces Cronoir, who walks up to her and introduces herself. Ayaka prepares to shoot a fire spell, but Cronoir stops her movement by using her magic dictatorship. She then uses a powerful spell on her, but as she expects, there is not even a single scratch on Ayaka. Hanoka doesn't know how OP Ayaka is and decides to idiotically stand in front of her as if he's defending her. Cronoir looks at that and compliments his stupid ass and tells him that no matter how many times anyone tries to kill Ayaka, they won't be able to harm her. After that, she walks forward and simply stabs him in his stomach. Hanoka falls on his knees and starts crying, but she tells him to stop acting as if it hurts and to get his sissy ass back on his feet. Hanoka wonders what she is saying, but then realizes that it really doesn't hurt and his body is actually unharmed. Just then, Ayaka falls on the ground and Hanoka notices that she is bleeding from the same place he was stabbed. Cronoir tells him that it is because of a special ability called damage transfer, which makes it so as long as they are close to each other, any injury on him is instead transferred to her. She further explains that the reason she has this ability is because she has signed a contract with him, which allows her to use the power within him to make herself an invincible witch, but then she must protect him from all harm. She then tells him that if he wants to save her, he needs to simply give her more of his power using the white stuff inside him, and no, she is not referring to the thing that you all gutter minds are thinking. She is talking about a spirit that lives inside him like the nine-tailed fox in Naruto. She gives him a magical candy and tells him to swallow it if he wants to unleash his real power. After that, she tries to make him swallow it by force by feeding it to him herself, but Ayaka is not gonna let some chibi pervert steal her first kiss from her pet, so she unleashes a burst of green flames and makes her fall back. Yes, it all happens through the power of plot armor. After that, she tells Hanoka that for a little while she will transform into something that she is not and then takes some magic from him and becomes the hottest mommy in the series with green flames and dragon-like powers. She instantly overpowers Cronoir and pierces through her barrier alongside her throat. But then Cronoir makes her retreat and leaves them both behind on the bus stop. Hanoka wakes up first and notes that Ayaka's wound is healed, but she is not waking up. He takes her to the hospital and the nurse tells him that she is just tired and wakes up soon. After that, he goes back home and notices a wrapped candy inside his pocket and realizes that it's the magical orb that Cronoir was trying to feed him. He decides to keep it hidden from Ayaka and puts it inside his drawer in case there's a time he really needs it. He also wonders about what Cronoir said about Ayaka making a contract with him, and if it meant that he knew her before meeting her at the school. The next day, Ayaka books the whole gymnasium for them to train Hanoka. She gives him his own witch class gear and starts explaining its features. She tells him to try jumping high and he tries it. To his surprise, he feels a lot lighter and is able to jump almost as high as the gymnasium's roof. After that, she catches him princess style on his way down and then tells him to try picking her up in the same way. Hanoka picks her up and notices that she is really light, and she tells him that leaning the robe makes their body really light. Next up, she holds her right hand forward and twists her wrist a bit and a magical broom appears in her hands. She tells him that the brooms are stored inside the capes and they can be summoned by doing the gesture. Hanoka tries to do the same but manages to only summon his disappointment when he fails to get the broom out. Just then, Ayaka's alarm rings and she says that their time's up. Suddenly, a lot of students open the door and walk inside for their practice, and Hanoka starts panicking and tells her that they should hide or others will see them in these otaku-ass get-ups. But to his surprise, no one pays attention to him and he wonders if he has finally become so transparent that no one even bothers to look at him. But Ayaka tells him that this is thanks to the robes they are wearing, and it has a charm on it that prevents other people from noticing them, and they also subconsciously avoid them when walking as well. After that, they walk out and she asks him if he's afraid of heights and then grabs him and rides on her broom far up into the sky. She says that they will practice flying like this until he can draw out his broom and explains that normally workshop witches patrol the area like this to make sure everything is alright in their sector. Besides that, at any given moment, there are 5 strong witches in their high school who keep patrolling to make sure the school is safe. After flying for a while and even taking a nap, Ayaka flies them both back to the school, but on their way, Honoka stops her and points her down and says that a kid was being bullied and robbed and they should stop them. But Ayaka tells him that it is the job of the police, and as witches their job is to protect the town from evil witches and they don't interfere with the matters of normal people, as they must never let them find out about their existence. Honoka doesn't buy that excuse and summons his broom and jumps down. He barely saves the season from ending right here by managing to not fall to his death, and then rams straight into the bullies and makes them fall on the ground like some car accident. They all get on top of him and decide to beat him up, but Ayaka arrives in time and burns them up to a crisp using her magic. Honoka asks about the whole not attacking civilians thing, and she says that they were witches, and that's why they were able to notice him even though he's wearing the robe. Turns out, the girl who was getting robbed is Hanako's younger sister, Kasumi's friend from the same school, and she's not a witch, so she didn't see any of the magic happen. Meanwhile, in the city of Rothenburg, we see Medusa is sealed under the tightest security the city can provide. Somehow she manages to break the seal and escapes from the prison, and the first people that she decides to visit are none other than her esteemed students, Team Tampopo Rocket. But before she makes contact with them, we see Tampopo and her friends sitting in a restaurant and thinking up a plan to capture Honoka and defeat Ayaka. It is a tough problem because one of them is practically invincible and the other constantly produces Riz pheromones that keep her with him like a pet. During their discussion, Rin suggests that they stop attacking Ayaka at all and wait for a moment when Honoka is alone and then capture him like that. They decide to go with this plan, but just before they walk out, Cremora comes to them and says that she would like to join in on their little plan. The next morning, Honoka wakes up and goes down to freshen up and get ready for school. His sister, Kasumi, greets him good morning and helps fix his bed hair with a comb and a hairdryer. While doing so, she asks him about the call he received from a girl last weekend. He doesn't want to tell her that the hottest girl in their school calls him master, so he decides to lie to her and says that it was just a calling system in their class and the girl's number was before him and she called him to say that they are going to have a fun day on Monday. Kasumi wonders if that's right and asks him why he went out in a rush after receiving the call, and he slowly starts sweating. He makes up another BS excuse, but she catches up to him and tells him that she can very well burn his hair off with the hairdryer on max setting. She then says that she knows he went out with Ayaka, and she hears rumors as well because they go to the same school, and she often gets bullied because her brother is hogging the princess all to himself. She asks him what kind of a relationship they had. He wonders what to say, but then their mom, Komachi, tells them that breakfast is ready and Kasumi lets him off the hook, saying she will come into his room to talk later that night. Meanwhile, Ayaka is waiting for Honoka at the bus stop and gets ambushed by 3 witches from Tampopo's gang. After finishing their breakfast, Honoka remembers that he had to meet up with Ayaka early today and starts running to the bus stop. While running, he gets tripped over by a trap set up there by Tampopo and her rabbit toy soldiers. They capture him and put him on the ground, and she tells him that right now, her other friends would be beating Ayaka to a pulp because they know her weakness. Turns out, Cremor told them about the secret behind Ayaka's invincibility and how separating her from Honoka will make her weaker. Just then, 2 of her soldiers get yeeted off into space by a massive leg. Tampopo wonders where they went, but then looks up to notice a massive bear toy playing with her soldiers in its hands. Turns out is all Kasumi's doing, and she's actually a workshop witch as well. Tampopo becomes mad at her for ruining their plan that is going good for once and takes out her massive soldier, and soon it becomes a fight between 2 titans. Bunny and Bear fight each other, but the Bear Titan manages to push the Carrot Eater down. When it looks like the bear will win, the bunny strikes back with puppy eyes, or should I say bunny eyes, and then takes him by surprise with an attack on its eyes. They both keep fighting with some wrestling moves. The bear tries to slam the rabbit into the ground and then throws him to the wires like Goku by spinning it around. The rabbit falls back but then rebounds stronger with spiked gloves and poisonous gas. In the end, they both hit each other with a left hook, but the bear manages to land it first and pushes the rabbit back on the ground. Just then, a wild skeletal T-Rex arrives and uses a tackle. Kasumi turns back to see what kind of Pokemon that is and notes that it's Rin with her dead pet. Tampopo and Rin surround her and make it a 2 versus 1, but Kasumi uses her secret technique, Surprise Mother Flipper, and grows her bear into a colossal titan. After that, she squashes the bunny and the skeleton under her foot and ends up destroying more buildings than the terrorists on 9/11. After that, she gets down from her bear and walks up to Hanoka, who has been enjoying the show while sitting on his ass and wishing he had some popcorn. Hanoka asks her what this was all about, and she asks him what he thinks who protected him all these years when the princess wasn't around. Hearing of the princess, Hanoka holds her hands and says that they need to go save Ayaka, but Kasumi says that that cow of an OP monster doesn't need saving, only salvation, and points at her sitting on the bear's paw enjoying her book. Ayaka walks down and Hanoka immediately runs to her and starts thanking her for being safe and fighting the witches for him. Looking at that, Kasumi becomes mad and asks if she isn't the one he should be thanking instead. After that, she talks to Ayaka and tells her that they had agreed for her to protect him when he's home on holidays and weekends while she's in charge of the bus and at school, but she went ahead and took him out last weekend. While they fight over his supposed custody, he realizes that everything Kasumi said in the morning about getting bullied and not knowing about Ayaka and was a lie, and she says that she was just teasing him as is her job as his younger sister. After that, she tells Ayaka that the headmistress told them that there are over 30 tower witches in the town now, yet they have not made a move, which means something big is about to happen, so be on guard. In the meantime, we see Kazane turn on the TV to see half the city destroyed from Kasumi and Tampopo's fight, and she wonders how much more in debt she will have to go to cover for all that. Back in the city, Ayaka says that maybe she would like to protect Hanoka 24/7, and they should move in together from now on. On the other hand, Chrome Noir is cooking up something as she orders her Croco Boy to capture every single tower witch in the city and gather them up at her base. At the same time, Kazane receives a call from Rothenberg informing her about Medusa's breakout. The following day, Ayaka goes to meet Hanoka and Kasumi's mother to ask her permission to keep Hanoka with her 24/7. To their surprise, their mother, Komachi, immediately agrees and starts telling them a story from her childhood. She says that when she was in high school, she became friends with this strong girl who went by the title of Dragon Tooth. This girl was none other than Ayaka's mother, Kazane. They became such good friends that they decided to marry each other, but it wasn't 2023 yet, so they had to marry men and eventually promised to make their children marry each other instead. This means that Ayaka and Hanoka were engaged even before they were born. Hearing all this, Kasumi refuses to let this pass like that and says that she won't let her Oni-chan go away. Komachi tells her that she needs to grow up now and that she still insists on staying with him and makes him do stuff for her all day long. She says that it's her right as his younger sister, and when everything else fails, Komachi pushes her on the ground and holds her down and tells Hanoka to pack his stuff and run away. After that, they both walk out and Ayaka asks him if he is fine living with her alone. He says that there is no guy in this world that wouldn't want to live with her. Feel free to leave your thoughts on that in the comments section, and then says that it almost feels nostalgic for him for some reason. Ayaka then tries to complete his thought by saying that it almost feels like we met each other long ago, and for some reason, no matter how many times we try, we can't seem to remember when it happened. She then says that her memories are hazy as well, but the only difference between them is that she remembers her mission, which is to protect him with her life. She then says that she believes someone close to their powers made them like this, and it seems all planned. Soon her car arrives and the driver opens the door for them. Hanoka realizes that being the daughter of the headmistress must mean that she is rich AF. They soon arrive at her house, or rather her empire of a building. They walk in and are greeted by a bajillion maids, and Ayaka says that her room is on one of the upper floors, so they will take the elevator. While going up, Hanoka wonders who lives in a 41-story house, and then they arrive at Ayaka's room. They open the door and walk in, only to find the three maids waiting for them turned into stone, with Medusa standing behind them saying she got tired of waiting for them. Ayaka gets inside and tells Hanoka that he should stay on the 12th floor and closes the elevator door behind her. Ayaka transforms into her fire mage battle form and then starts fighting with the snake lady with full force. Meanwhile, on the other side of the door, Hanoka wonders why Ayaka told him to go away, because in the past, she would always tell him to stay close to her. He thinks that it's because the enemy is really strong, and then says that if he goes too far away, Ayaka would lose her invincibility, so instead of doing what she told him to do, he will do what he's best at, not following orders. Just then, the elevator's door melts down and Ayaka falls on the floor. She tells Hanoka to take his broom out and run, because during fight scenes, he's only as good as cannon fodder that dies as collateral damage. However, Medusa has other plans for them, and she uses her curse to turn Ayaka into stone as well. Hanoka tells her to let Ayaka go and he will do as she says, but she says that she can't do that because she's not dumb like him. Hanoka remembers that he still has that candy in his pocket because he brought it with him when they decided to live together. He takes it out and swallows it whole, releasing the seal and the white stuff inside him, and suddenly a white-haired, vampire-like beauty appears in the room and introduces herself as the White Princess Evermillion. Medusa charges forward straight at her, but Evermillion blasts her out of the building alongside the building itself and shows a fraction of her strength in that attack. Meanwhile, Kazane looks out the window to relax after a taxing day at work and makes it just in time to witness her multi-million-dollar empire get blasted into smithereens. She thinks that it must be the doing of Medusa and calls her assistant to gather every single witch in the town to hunt the snake down. On the other hand, Evermillion tells Hanoka that Ayaka turned into stone because he lacked belief in her strength, and to free her from this curse he must reignite the trust and feelings he has for her. In simple words, he needs to kiss her like Snow White to wake her up from her sleep. After that, she vanishes away and tells him to try to stay safe enough that he doesn't need to call her out often. Just then, Medusa flies back up, and this time she brings her students, the Team Tampopo Rocket, as well. Hanoka kisses Ayaka and undoes her stone seal and then sticks with her like a cockroach during the fight that follows. Ayaka blasts Team Rocket away with a single attack and then engages with Medusa in a one-on-one. They keep fighting on equal terms, and Medusa tries to turn her to stone again, but Ayaka simply breaks through it with the power of firepower, love, and plot armor. During their fight, Hanoka starts feeling really tired and he falls asleep while hugging Ayaka during their fight midair. Talk about being a burden, right? Later that night, he wakes up in the school's nurse's office and sees Ayaka sitting beside him. He asks her if she is okay and if all that was a nightmare. She says that it was all true and moves the curtains behind her aside to reveal Medusa and her students resting on the bed beside theirs. Hanoka starts freaking out, but Ayaka tells him that she will explain later, but they won't be attacking them anymore. After that, she puts the curtains back on and kisses Hanoka and says that she is returning the favor. Later on, they decide to go back to his house because hers got blown up quite literally. Kasumi goes out for the night to answer Kazane's summon while Ayaka and Hanoka meet up with his mom back home. The next morning, Kasumi comes back home after looking for Medusa all night long and failing the mission. She decides to pay Hanoka a visit in his room and ends up walking in on Ayaka sitting on top of him and checking his seal out. She becomes mad at knowing that her mom let Ayaka stay with them, and she starts talking back to her rudely on the breakfast table. Komachi can't take it and becomes depressed. Hanoka scolds her for being a bad daughter and makes her apologize to her, but it's already too late and Komachi just rolls up in her bed and doesn't talk to anyone. Hanoka calls her workplace and tells them that she is sick and won't be coming, and then leaves for his school before everyone else. Back at school, the student council and Ayaka's simping club are having a meeting. The president is going nuts over the fact that it has been 2 weeks since Hanoka started being too close with the princess and no one is doing anything about it. She turns to the vice president, but she also refuses to move and tells her to calm down because Ayaka said it herself that she won't tolerate anyone hurting Hanoka. Hearing this, the president turns towards their advisor and science teacher, Kyoichiro-sensei, and tells him that she knows he's the advisor only because he was too much of a sissy to say no, and that she has had enough of his lack of usability. If he doesn't do anything about Hanoka, she and the student council will have him expelled. Later that morning, Kyoichiro walks up to Ayaka and her pet and tells them that he has something to discuss with them and makes them follow him to the science laboratory. He confronts them straight up about the issue and tells them that he is the student council's advisor. Hanoka is causing problems for him and says that since he transferred here in his second year of high school, he probably doesn't know what Ayaka was like in the first year. He then explains that it is a custom of the school that on each fall culture festival, all students take a vote to select the most outstanding student, who will be their role model and the face of Tagetsu High School. Candidates are chosen based on their looks, grades, athletics, charisma, Dami-Mami factor, and various other criteria. And the winner is called the prince or the princess. He then says that the problem is that when some weird rumors start spreading about this student, things become complicated, especially when a boy is involved. Hanoka tries to defend her reputation, but Kyoichiro says that it doesn't matter what their real relationship is because she doesn't belong to him, she belongs to the school, so will he be kind enough to stay away from her? Hanoka starts thinking about this situation sadly, and Ayaka tells him to stop looking so sad. She says that this tradition takes root from a legend that says long ago an angel came down from the heavens and took classes with normal people, and so being the princess puts her in a high position. Kyoichiro confirms this and says that the hierarchy goes something like the headmistress, the princess, the student council, teachers, and regular students. Being the daughter of the headmistress herself, Ayaka already has 2 of the top authoritative roles, and no one has the right to dictate what she can and cannot do. But the problem with that is that you will get fired by the student council, and Ayaka says that she has a plan and they just need to speed it up. Kyoichiro says that he is relieved to hear that she has something in mind, and then says that now they will move on to the real problem he called them there for. He takes out a magical tool and teleports Hanoka and himself into a different dimension using it. He tells him to not worry and then takes out a little orb similar to the magical candy that Kronware gave him. He tells him that this is a lesser copy and the real one must have felt bad when going down his throat. Honoka wonders how he knows about the candy and everything because he hasn't told anyone about it besides Ayaka. Kyoichiro explains that they are here because Honoka used one of these candies to summon the White Princess, which is sealed within him. He explains that there are 5 seals in total and one of them has already been broken due to that, and he suspects that the headmistress will soon be his enemy. He says that the workshop headquarters entrusted him to her because she is an exceptionally strong witch. It is thanks to her that he has been able to live freely, but that was under the condition that the 5 seals remain untouched. Now one of them has fallen off and soon the other seals will start collapsing one by one as well, and nobody can stop that. The only solution would be to seal Honoka away using headmistress's magic, but fortunately right now she is busy dealing with Medusa and doesn't know about the seals. But is only a matter of time before she finds out about them alongside the fact that they are hiding Medusa as well. He then says that he only wants to help him, and if it weren't for the princess, he would have been his guardian, and offers him to ditch the bitch and come with him. Honoka doesn't even bother giving it a thought, and just then Ayaka breaks through the dimensional barrier and stabs Kyoichiro into the ground and takes Honoka out of there. Kyoichiro, however, manages to live by using substitution jutsu and goes away. After that, Ayaka takes Honoka to the speaker room and makes him make an announcement for all students to gather at the gymnasium. Once everyone is there, she walks up on the stage and for the first time in the history of DOTA shows some interest in the school's politics. She gives a bright speech about how she cares about the future of the school and says that she is hereby stripping the student council president of their position and appointing Honoka as her hand-picked candidate for the new president. She then takes the role of the vice president herself and makes the previous vice president and vice president. Later on, Honoka gives an introductory speech to the student council committee and says that he knows that no one likes him right now and he will take his time to prove his worth and make them all accept him by heart. Meanwhile, Kasumi is having none of Ayaka's domination BS over her brother Complex, and she decides to take him back by force. She prepares an elaborate trap and follows them after school. When they both walk into a toy shop and Honoka walks out alone for a breather, she immediately kidnaps him using her bear and throws a car at Ayaka and puts her to sleep with some injections. She then makes the bear equip the airplane mod that she created by dismantling half of their house and says that they will run into the woods and live there alone happily, the two of them. She says that she heard everything that the teacher told him and soon the headmistress will be his enemy and her daughter will be as well. Just then, they notice a massive shadow forming over them and look up to notice a freaking dragon flying over them ridden by none other than the Flame Princess herself. Ayaka decides to show them who's the real main character in this anime and starts shooting at them with some fire spells from above. Kasumi tries to dodge the attacks, which ends up destroying half the city and then eventually crashes into a building and everyone falls down. Ayaka jumps down and saves them all by catching them and breaking their fall. She then takes them back home and puts them to sleep. Later that night, Honoka wakes up and apologizes to her for his sister's action, but she says that she doesn't mind it as she merely threw a car at her and put her down to sleep with some comments. If anything, she admires her for being such a protective sister and then asks him if she should try acting like her little sister as well. Honoka says if anything she would be his elder sister, and then they both play around with it for the whole night. Eventually, Ayaka becomes bored with it and falls asleep, and Honoka lets her rest in his bed. He then looks at their bags and notices that the toys he bought for her and Kasumi got torn in their fight yesterday and becomes sad about it. Meanwhile, Komachi hears a call on her phone from Kazane saying she is coming over to talk to Ayaka and her son. The next morning, Kazane comes over and goes out with Komachi and Kasumi to do some shopping. Ayaka wakes up early to prepare breakfast for Honoka and herself, and Honoka wakes up to see her in the kitchen. He wonders how beautiful she looks and sits down with her and enjoys the breakfast. In the background, we see Tampopo and her gang, who are staying at their house alongside Medusa, try to capture Honoka. They talk to Medusa about why they are being so obedient towards the princess, and she says that they lost the battle fair and square, and as per the rules, it's only fair for them to obey the winner. Besides that, as long as their goals align, she does not need to make a move before the right time. But if they still want to try their hands at it, they are welcome to capture Honoka when Ayaka is not around. Hearing this, they all walk upstairs outside Honoka's room and wait for Ayaka to leave his side so they can kidnap him. But to their surprise, the princess doesn't sleep a wink and stays by his side all night long and then goes out to prepare the breakfast. It looks like she doesn't need as much sleep as a normal human being either, and this is another oat fact about her. Back in the living room, Honoka and Ayaka talk about Kazane and his mom and then go out together to the laundry because it starts raining. Just then, Kazane and the others also come back and Ayaka goes out to greet them. Honoka goes to the bathroom to dry himself off and then gets inside the bathroom only to find Mei and the other girls walking out and capturing him for being a pervert. They end up walking out in the main hall and everyone looks at them. Kazane puts Komashi and Kasumi to sleep and then tells Ayaka that they are going to capture them and make them reveal Medusa's whereabouts. They both summon their brooms, but instead of moving forward, Ayaka turns around and clashes against her mother and says that she can't let her capture them. Kazane tells Hanoka to tell her to stop this selfish behavior and that she can't let her be like this anymore. Hanoka thinks back on Kyochiro's words and realizes that she was really hiding Medusa and the others from her mother and decides to believe in her and tells her that they can't let themselves be captured. Ayaka rogers that and calls out to Medusa and tells her that they will go along with their agreement right now. Medusa gladly accepts and comes out in the open and bites her, causing them both to fuse. Hanoka falls unconscious for a bit and sees a vision that explains what happened between them back when Medusa attacked them at Ayaka's house. They formed a contract so Ayaka can gain power to fight her mother, and Medusa will gain a new successor to transfer her powers into in the form of the princess herself. With this agreement in place, Ayaka promised to shelter Medusa and her students from her mother until the right time. Turns out, Kazane still doesn't realize why Medusa combined with Ayaka and blurts out some nonsense. Medusa makes fun of her, and then they both start fighting with Kazane, starting off with a strike from her broom. Ayaka blocks the attack and then uses her eyes to turn her to stone, but Kazane grabs her by the collar and pushes her to the ground. Despite all that, Ayaka manages to turn her to a stone statue, and then stands up and starts walking away, apologizing to her. But then she gets kicked on her butt from behind as Kazane breaks through the stone seal through sheer willpower and grabs her by the collar once again. She then tells her she thinks it is all it will take to bring her down and asks her it's not strange that she is out of breath after taking just one hit in the back. She then explains that it is because her invincibility with Evermillion has been undone because she hates impurity, and by combining with Medusa she has made herself much weaker. She then tells her to prepare for a beatdown, but Hanoka uses his power to shift places with her and ends up tanking the punch himself. Sometime later, he wakes up tied inside a prison cell alongside Ayaka. She tries to burn the metal bars away, but it proves useless. She explains that they are inside one of her mother's punishment chambers and her fusion with Medusa has already been undone. This is the worst case scenario, as Medusa would be getting interrogated right now and their secret would be out in the open. She then reveals that her mother once told her that no matter what happens, even if she dies, she must not let Hanoka's seals get broken because as long as the seals were there, she would guarantee their protection at the school. But now that they are gone, they have lost that and Hanoka has become a threat. She then says that the only way out of this is that they defeat her mother. She explains that she is really sportsmanlike and if they defeat her, she would surely join their side. Hanoka remembers how they both got their asses beaten by her and wonders how they are going to do that exactly, but Ayaka says that there is a way out, and it involves Hanoka's own power. Meanwhile, back at the school, Kazane is enjoying a game of Shove-You with Chronowire and she asks her about Medusa. Kazane says that she was excited about torturing the Snake Lady, but then some witches from the Rothenburg workshop came and asked for her custody with official orders from the headquarters, and so she had to give up on her. While she drinks her tea angrily thinking about all the fun she could have had with Medusa, her school building explodes and she looks down to see Ayaka and Hanoka standing on top of the rubble outside their prison. She flies out and tells Ayaka just how many times she has told her to stop destroying buildings, but Ayaka replies by pointing her sword at her and saying that she will defeat her. Kazane asks why she has to fight her and tells her to wear her uniform and get her stupid ass down from there. She scolds them both for breaking out of their prison and tells them to go home for today and that they will have to help her clean all this mess the next day. Ayaka and Hanoka walk back home and realize that Kazane didn't find out about the seals after all and decide that all's well if he ends well. That night, Hanoka and Ayaka sleep together and don't worry, nothing happens between them. Due to being close to her, Hanoka has a strange dream that shows him memories of Ayaka's past from the time when Kazane hired the daughters of two witches to become friends with her daughter and to look after her. These two students would later become the first members of Ayaka's simping squad and the third seat and vice president of the student council. Kane and Toko quickly become friends with Ayaka and realize how she doesn't know how to interact with other people normally, but at the same time, she is a stunning student in terms of her charm, academics, and athletics once someone teaches her. Over that year, they start admiring her a lot and fall in love with her personality and form a whole group of ships that would eventually lead to her getting appointed as the princess. But then one day, Ayaka would run into Hanoka walking past her alongside his sister, and this encounter would spark something within her, and she would go to her mother and tell her that she has finally found the one she is destined to protect with her life. And that's how Ayaka started her journey as Hanoka's protector. The next morning, Kasumi wakes up and walks up to the kitchen wondering what happened yesterday and opens the door only to find their dining table filled with Team Tampopo Rocket. Kazane let them go because she was only interested in Medusa, and with nowhere else to go, they decided to just stay at their house. Yeah, Kasune doesn't really like that. After getting ready, she walks up to Honoka's room to wake him up and ends up once again running into Ayaka on top of him, this time in a nurse outfit with the excuse that she is checking the condition of his seals. With that, they all walk to their school after taking their breakfast, and everything seems to have gone back to normal, with Honoka's locker being filled with hate mail and requests to quit the student council, and his usual day being a dumbass in the class, getting the answers wrong even after trying. During lunchtime, Honoka and Ayaka walk down to the cafeteria, but suddenly hear the noise of broken glass and rush down to see some students breaking everything and making a mess out of the school. Soon, the whole school becomes a lawless zone with kids running around on motorbikes and selling cigarettes and whatnot. Honoka asks what's going on, and Ayaka says that it looks like a rebellion. Tampopo pitches in and says that as the student council president, it's Honoka's fault, and suddenly they see Toko being pushed on the ground in front of them by a girl named Ramen. She gives Honoka a letter telling him as the student council president to come to the gym alone at 2:30 p.m., and it clearly doesn't give off the vibe that they would be having a friendly chat there. Toko reveals that during her night shift last night, she saw the former student council president walk into the bar alongside Rainan, and she told her that Honoka took her position by force and is now ruling over the school like a tyrant. Ayaka signals Toko to come meet her after school, and then later during the gym class reveals that Rainan is one of the 5 witches tasked with protecting and patrolling the school. She was called the Bear Killer because once a tiger named Lucky Bear escaped the zoo and she strangled it with her bare hands. About 2 months ago, she was suspended from the school for causing trouble. During lunchtime, Honoka says that he would expect the headmistress to be mad with all this property damage, but Tampopo says that she ran into Kronwire earlier in the hallway, and it looks like the headmistress is out of town for some business and has left her in charge for the day. And we all know she doesn't give a flying frick about what happens to the school. At 2:30, Honoka decides to walk to the gym alone with some advice from Ayaka on how Rainan fights. Once he enters the building, he notices that the court is transformed into a ring of sorts with a massive crowd of students gathered around them cheering them on. Honoka tries to talk his way out of it, but Rainan says that he had his way with her best friend, and he even tried to socially disgrace her. After that, she lands a straight punch on his face, sending him back on the ground. Honoka gets back up on his feet, but Rainan says that she will punish him in front of the entire school, and then makes a punching bag out of him by hitting him left and right and making him fall over once again. After that, she holds him by his tie and decides to finish him off with her signature punch. But it turns out, Honoka has been waiting for this moment all this time thanks to Ayaka telling him about it before walking in. He follows her advice and uses his power to gain some stat boost and pushes her back on the ground and gets on top of her instead. He then decided to hit her and put an end to all this madness, but then decided against it because it's 2014 and chivalry is still a good thing. Just then, the lights turn off and Ayaka jumps down alongside Tampopo and her gang. Rainan beats the 3 witches with her punches, but Ayaka destroys her with a single hit on her face. After that, she takes the other girls with her and makes them hold Honoka in a victory pose while wearing their concealing robes before turning the lights back on and making it look like he defeated Rainan. After all this, it is revealed that Ayaka planned for all this a week before with the former president to let her back in the student council if she helps with making Honoka popular. They had a plan for all this, but she went a little overboard with making Rainan angry over Honoka. But despite all that, the results were great, and he is now considered the hero who defeated the Bear Killer. His Google search trend is at an all-time high, and YouTubers are reacting to his victory left and right. He even got the seal of approval from streamers like Asmongold, Giguk, and the Anime Man, and it looks like a massive gilly for him as the student council president. A few days later, Ayaka takes Honoka on top of a very tall building and says that she will finally train him to fight with his magic. Honoka asks why the change of hearts, because before she refused to teach him as it can be really dangerous. Ayaka says that she knows that he has been training in secret and that he is keeping secrets from her, and she doesn't like that. After that, she summons a fire familiar and tells him to use his magic to fight against it. The familiar shoots a fire breath and makes Honoka fall back on his ass. Ayaka tells him to use his magic to summon his own familiar, but like anyone else, he looks at her with that what the hell look and asks her how. The familiar starts attacking him, and he ends up injuring his elbow, and Ayaka immediately stops everything and rushes to his side and asks if he is fine. Honoka stands up and pushes her back and tells her that he needs her to be a tough teacher so he can learn properly. Ayaka looks at his stupid ass for a second and then picks him up before throwing him off the building. She tells him to summon a familiar that can fly or rest in peace, and Honoka realizes that he just dug his own grave. On his way down, he gets attacked by the fire familiar, and Ayaka also follows her broom. Honka keeps thinking about what's most important to him that he can summon, and just before crashing down, he remembers the dream he had about Ayaka in her swimming suit and the nurse costume, and ends up summoning a giant avatar in the form of Ayaka in her nursing outfit, proving his status as a true man of culture. The avatar then punches the building in front of them and exposes Kyoichiro-sensei having some tea with Cronoir. She tells him that this was a powerful magic and he couldn't have used it without breaking the second seal, and then asks him where Kazane was as she went somewhere leaving her in charge, and it's so boring without her. Meanwhile, Hanoka falls asleep after using so much magic, and Ayaka takes him back home. On the other hand, Kazane is investigating an ancient exploding rune and an underground tunnel and gets approached by Rinan, who tells her that Toko told her about her location. She asks her what she was doing there, and Rinan says that some witch calling herself the messenger of the tower came to them and told them to deliver a message to her saying that she has taken everyone in the city hostage. 1 week later, Ayaka and Hanoka go to their school for their exam while Kazane is still out and meets up with the messenger of the tower person. It turns out to be a witch called Weekend. Kazane says that she knows about the bomb and she knows that she is there to negotiate with her to get custody of Hanoka. Weekend looks at her and says that while she is right about her wanting Hanoka and his powers, she is not there to negotiate. She then starts explaining that normally if a witch were to attack some other witch, it would be a straight-up battle, but if they were to try and attack a normal civilian, they won't be able to kill them. This is because of the large-scale protective barrier that Kazane has cast over everyone in the town. Every time someone is hurt, some of Kazane's magic is used up and they are protected from harm. Normally, it would be impossible for a human to perform such a feat, but due to her enormous mana pool and high replenishing rate, she is able to cast and maintain this barrier over the town forever. After that, she says what will happen if everyone in the town were to blow up at the same time, and she's sure that protecting so many people at once will certainly deplete even her mana pool, and once she's out of the game, she can take her sweet time to capture Hanoka. With that, she sets off the many ancient rune bombs she has placed all over the city at once, and just like she said, the whole city turns into ruins, but no one is harmed except for Kazane, who's out for the count with all her mana used up. She reveals that she was behind enticing Medusa and Cronoir as well, and her plan was to get Kazane to get out of the picture all alone. She then makes her companions take her away and locks her up in a cell, and says that it would take at least a week for her to gain all her mana back, which is enough time for her to play with her students. Meanwhile, back at the school, Ayaka notices the explosions go off and grabs Hanoka and runs to the underground workshop for the witches. Down there, they see Kasume, who rushes to her brother and hugs him, and they are greeted by Toko, Rinan, and a couple of other witches tasked with the protection of the school, including their leader Natsume and a catchero called Atori. Hanoka asks them about what was going on, and they say that they will fill them in on that, but then Natsume takes out a gun and uses American gun style, sleeping bullets, and puts Ayaka to sleep by shooting Hanoka. Kasumi tries to defend them, but Rinan knocks her out with a single hit and then tells Hanoka that they must seal him until they know where Kazane is and what the enemy wants. He decides to understand the situation for once and follows them to an underground confinement cell alongside Ayaka. While inside, he notices the ceiling being too high but open to let some fresh air in. He tries to fly up to it using his broom but can't use his magic for some reason. Just then, Ayaka also wakes up and says that she was careless, and all this must mean that her mother was defeated. Just then, Atori walks up to the ceiling and falls down from the open roof and projects a hologram showing Weekend, who says that she finally found him and that she will be on her way to get her new pet, Hanoka. After looking at her face, Ayaka destroys the toy, making an explosion that breaks the wall behind them. She says that they will escape and defeat her, and that for now they can't use any magic because of the city being in ruins. After that, they take a 2-hour-long staircase out of there to a mountain outside of the town. After coming out in the tunnel, they are welcomed by a dreadful scenery of the whole town destroyed and caught on fire. Looking at that, he loses his mind and starts panicking and blaming himself for all this destruction. He says that his mom and everyone was at home and now they are all dead because the enemy wanted to capture him. Meanwhile, Ayaka stands there unfazed and tells him to own it and that no one is dead. She starts explaining that it is an old custom that when a workshop is established, the head of the workshop forms a contract with the heart of the city. By doing so, a strong barrier is cast over all non-witches, and when a situation happens where normal people would get hurt, the city uses up the magic of the contractor and protects them. In essence, the city uses the magic of the workshop witches to repair itself from any damage caused by magic, and because the city is in ruins right now and the contractor is missing, no workshop witch would be able to use any magic until a new contract is formed. That's why for their first goal, they will go to the center of the city and make him the new contractor so the workshop witches can fight back. On the other hand, Natsume and the others assess the situation and put all the information together. All the civilians have been evacuated and put to sleep in a safe location, while the headmistress is in the enemy hands. No workshop witch is able to use any magic because the city is in ruins, and it will take at least a few more days until any form of help arrives from the headquarters. Besides that, lots of workshop witches are also missing after the explosions. Just then, one of the missing workshop witches runs inside and reveals herself to be strapped with time bombs. She says that Weekend has captured a bunch of them and is using them as negotiation to make them give up Honoka, and they have half an hour to fulfill her demands or else they will all go kaboom. Meanwhile, Kasumi teams up with Tampopo and her gang, and they keep watch over Weekend, who is standing on the school grounds with a bunch of workshop witches strapped with time bombs around her. Tampopo asks Kasumi what she wants them to do, and she says that right now they are the only witches who can use magic, and she will make sure that they earn their keep for staying in her house. Back in the tunnel to the heart of the city, Ayaka and Honoka keep walking forward and are approached by one of Weekend's companions called Gibraltar. She uses her magic to form a stone golem, and then pounds them both into the ground with her massive rock arms. She grabs Ayaka up and proceeds to deliver the finishing blow, but Ayaka jumps up instead and simply kicks her in her face. Gibraltar thinks that a normal kick can't break through her rock armor, but turns out Ayaka is OP regardless of her magic, and her mother made her train in martial arts as well. She utterly destroys Gibraltar and her dumb ass, and they continue walking forward. Back at the underground workshop, Natsume tries to defuse the bombs manually, but then only 18 minutes are left, and they decide to face Weekend head-on. At the same time, Cremora wakes up in her room and finds the whole town burnt to a crisp. She asks her partner about all this, and he explains that it is the doing of the witch called Weekend who fed them the information about Honoka. She says that it means she has defeated Kazane, and there's no way she would let someone strong enough to defeat her go away like that without a fight. Meanwhile, Natsume and the others walk up to Weekend and tell her to give up, but she says that in less than 12 minutes they will all die anyway, so they should hand Honoka over if they want to live a little longer. She says that she's actually pretty weak, but even if they defeat her, they won't be able to stop the bombs. Hearing this, Kasumi wonders if she is just a negotiator and the real contractor of the bombs is someone else. With that idea, she rushes down inside the building to find her partner who would be controlling the bombs. On the other hand, Honoka walks up to the heart of the city and follows Ayaka's instructions to form a contract with the city. Only a few minutes are left before the bombs explode and Rinan and the others start running towards Weekend with their fists. And just then, they feel their magic return as Honoka successfully forms a contract, and they immediately dismantle all the bombs and put Weekend on the ground. After that, they capture her and take her to a magic sealing cell. But she uses physical hand grenades while inside her seal and breaks through it, knocking them all out from the explosion. She protects herself with an iron armor that she is wearing underneath her clothes, and then she meets up with her companion and sets off the remaining bombs and puts down a lot of workshop witches and calls out to Honoka to come save them if he can. Thanks to his contract, he can hear her voice and look at everyone getting hurt, and he decides to use his powers to fight her, but Ayaka knocks him down with a headbutt and says that she will take care of it herself. On the other hand, Kasumi and the others find Weekend's companion and start fighting them, while Cromwell captures Gibraltar and makes her spit out Weekend's plan and whereabouts. After knocking Honoka out, Ayaka takes him to the school's nurse's office and lets him rest on a bed. Honoka has a dream about some past memories from his and Ayaka's mother's past, but just before he can find out anything of importance, Kyoichiro-sensei arrives in his dream and pulls him out of it to his other dimension like before. He tells him that this is a special realm where the memories of everyone in the town lies. As the new contractor of the city, instead of heaving dreams of his own, he came here instead. After that, he takes him down an elevator and explains that in times of crisis, this is where they evacuate all the non-witch civilians of the city, and they are all stored as stars in the sky of this realm. Once the town is restored back to normal, they will release them after erasing and editing their memories so they don't remember anything about this incident. Honoka asks about the memory erasing thing, and he reveals that as a member of the Mikage family, it is his job to erase and edit the memories of everyone in this town so they can keep their existence a secret. Meanwhile, Kasumi is fighting Weekend's partner who has the copy magic, which allows him to copy the magic of their opponents. With that, their battle becomes another episode of Attack on Titan, with Kasumi's Pink Bear Titan versus their Black Bear Titan. They have an intense duel and smash each other's heads like some crazy monsters, but it looks like Kasumi has the upper hand. After that, they both stand back up and continue their fighting and end up destroying a piece of the school building with Tampopo and the others inside. Kasumi uses her bear to save one of them, but this gives the enemy a chance to knock her back, and it looks like they will win, but then Medusa arrives in her hot human body and turns the enemy into stone. After that, she grabs her students and says that she will have to punish them for not being able to finish such a weak opponent, and then runs away with them, while being chased by the Rothenburg witches. Back at the nurse's office, Atori walks in and asks Ayaka about Honoka's status. She tells her that he has a high fever, and it's because she forced him to use his magic to form a contract with the town. Atori tells her that she completed her mission as asked and gives her information about Cromwire hunting down tower witches in the city, and then tells her that it's not her job to worry about Honoka. Ayaka thanks her and asks her to stay beside Honoka while she goes out to defeat Weekend and put an end to all this madness. She then asks for her sword and flies off to the church where Weekend is waiting for her. After that, she immediately jumps forward and tries to attack her, but gets pushed back by an explosion mid-air. She explains that unlike her and Kazane, he doesn't have some absurd hack or OP abilities in her arsenal. That's why she took years to prepare all the bombs and place them all over the city so she could take them on anywhere, anytime, and that the whole place was rigged with bombs and she doesn't stand a chance against her. After that, they continue fighting and Weekend explodes the ceiling and makes it fall over Ayaka. Ayaka gets hurt but comes out of it anyway with her fire magic activated. They continue fighting each other and Ayaka manages to barely defeat her in close combat, but then gets blasted back to the door with an explosion and Weekend reveals a bunch of massive mana dolls and uses them to attack her. Back at the school, Honoka and Kyoichiro are attacked by one of Weekend's companions and Kyoichiro uses his magic to send Honoka back to the real world. Honoka wakes up and talks to Atori about Ayaka, but she puts him back to bed due to his high fever. Just then, she receives a call from Kyoichiro and he tells her that Weekend has planted a massive time bomb inside this realm and they must defeat her to defuse it, otherwise everyone evacuated here will die. Atori decides to help Honoka and takes him to where Ayaka is and they make it just in time to see Ayaka lying on the floor defeated. Honoka takes her in his arms and tells her that there is a bomb that will kill everyone and they must defeat Weekend and tells her to use his powers. Ayaka does just that and utterly wipes the floor with Weekend's face and quite literally at that. She asks her for the switch to the bomb, but Weekend says that it's already too late and sets off the bomb. With everyone dying in front of him, Honoka gets up and tries to use Evermillion's powers once again. Ayaka tries to stop him, but then he feels dizzy and falls on the ground unconscious. In his dream, this time he meets Evermillion and she tells him that he's already back even when she told him not to get himself in situations where he has to rely on her powers. She says that she knows what he's here for, and that he wants to restore all the lives and buildings that were lost during this period. She then says that it's all fine and doable, but such a big wish will need comparable compensation to be fulfilled. He asks what he can offer her in return, and she says his life, but then reminds him that if she takes his life by contract, Ayaka will die as well. He thinks about it for a minute, but then says that there is no other choice. He forms a contract with her and agrees to offer up his life in exchange for getting everyone back and uses her power at full force. Just like that, we see everything restoring back to normal with the whole town getting restored and everyone getting back to normal as if the bombs never exploded. Ayaka hugs him and he apologizes to her for giving up his life and by contract hers as well to make this happen, and she says that she won't let him die just like that. She stands up and calls Evermillion's name and says that she will offer her life instead. Suddenly, her magical form disappears and she falls on the ground unconscious while Honoka gets to live. But even before he can grieve her loss, he is stabbed in the back by Weekend, who got restored as well thanks to his wish earlier. She tells him that he ruined her plan and that now she only has a knife left. You don't have to cry for her because he can go meet her in the afterlife right now. Honoka mans up and pushes the knife out of him. After that, he punches her back on the ground like all those equal rights activists and then gets on top of her with the knife and stabs it in the ground beside her head and tells her that he is done devaluing lives, and no matter how many times she uses her evil schemes to make his life miserable, her will always defeat her and put an end to her plans. After this heroic speech, he falls on top of her due to his wound, and she decides to let him live and tells her companion to patch him up and that they still have a few days left before a week ends and Kazane returns. After that, they walk out to go to their hideout but are greeted by Chronowire and her Croco Boy, and they take her with them for a walk. While everyone is back and happy, Honoka is crying over Ayaka's dead body. Atori walks in and gets a call from Kyoichiro, who tells them that everything is now good and they have successfully completed their mission. But Honoka is too sad to care about all that and tells everything that happened to him. After hearing his story, Kyoichiro says that something seems off about it, and that is the fact that normally only the contractors can fulfill the demands of the contract and no one else, which means Ayaka shouldn't be able to give her life up in exchange for his just like that. Honoka notices that something is strange with her body as well because even though she is not breathing, the body is still warm. He says that he would like to try something and they might be able to bring Ayaka back. He tells Atori to create a special magic circle and to place Ayaka inside it. He tells him that perhaps Ayaka is in this state because she forcefully ended their contract and to bring her back, he will have to form a contract with her once again. He tells him to cut his hand a bit and drop some of his blood on her chest, and then to kiss her. Hearing this, Honoka does just that, and surprisingly, the harder part is kissing and not the cutting of his hand. He tries his best to go for her lips, but ends up sissying out of it and plants a kiss on her forehead. It takes some time, but Ayaka really comes back to life and starts breathing again. After that, Honoka goes back into his dream world to talk to Evermillion alongside Kyokiro, and asks her about what happened. She tells him about the contract she made with Ayaka when they were kids, and according to that, if he were to ever die or ask for her help, she would release the contract between them and let him use his own power that he uses to keep her alive. Apparently, Honoka restored everything on his own, and once Ayaka broke their contract, she didn't need to give him any of her powers, so their agreement never followed through, so their deal was called off. In the meantime, Crumware challenges Weekend to a 1v1 duel, and she ends up utterly destroying her like some background character who gets paired up against the MC in the tournament arc. She feels disappointed in her and says that she went through a lot of trouble to find a strong opponent, and she turned out to be so weak. She says that perhaps she would make up for that by torturing her, but then Kazune arrives on the scene and says that for this incident, she would want the custody of the villain and she can't let Crumware have her. Weekend asks her how she is there, as it should take at least 5 more days for her to recover her mana, but Crumware says that her calculations were off and it took only 20 hours for Kazune to recover all her magic. She then asks her why she didn't come out earlier then, and Kazune says she wanted the kids to have some fun, so she decided to not butt in this time, and now she was there to clean up the mess they made. With that, she turns to Crumwire, and Weekend watches them fight over the rights to torture her. They both face off against each other, and if no one realized it until now, they are probably the strongest people in the show so far. Their battle lasts only a few minutes where they both trade intense blows, but as usual, Kazune comes out on top. The next morning, Honoka wakes up in his bed in his room, and Ayaka greets him good morning and tells him to get ready for school. On their way, Honoka asks her if she is fine, and she says that it will take some time for her magic powers to recover, but she is fine even without them. After that, they are ambushed by Team Tampopo Rocket, and they decide to do their usual shtick about capturing Honoka, but Ayaka shows them that she is still the main character of this world, even if she doesn't have magic, by grabbing Tampopo and Mei up from their skulls and almost crushing them with her grip. They apologize to her for their rude behavior, and everything is back to normal. And just like that, Season 1 of Witchcraft Works comes to an end.